Our fourth speaker for the evening is a freshman studying journalism and mass communication. She's from Brunswick, Ohio, and Bill Kelvin's Com 15,000 class, and her name is Madisyn Woodring.
Imagine a world where our favorite fruits, vegetables, and other important crops are scarce and very expensive. Food sources would be more limited. Imagine the hunger the world would feel. Scarily enough, a world without bees could yield these results, as they are so important in pollinating the many crops that help feed our world. That is why it is important, so important, that we help protect them. So, in short, bees affect our everyday lives as we eat the products of pollination on a daily basis. And as someone who cares greatly about the environment, I have always been interested in preserving the organisms that live within it. I will explain why bees are dying and possible solutions to this. However, without these solutions, the world may turn to be a darker place. Now I will get into the first issue at hand. What is killing the bees? The first main problem is colony collapse disorder. In 2018, the EPA released an article that defined colony collapse disorder as when too many worker bees abandon the queen and infant bees suddenly. The hive can no longer be active without the worker bees, so it will eventually die, and this has become fairly common. This connects to an article OSU published titled Being Better, in which Dr. Reed Johnson from their Department of Entomology explains that bee populations have been declining from colony collapse disorder since the early 2000s. Another problem is neonicotinoid usage. PBS created an article titled Neonicotinoid Pesticides Are Slowly Killing the Bees, in which they explain neonicotinoids are a type of insecticide that remains inside the plant when the bee goes to pollinate and then transfers itself over to the body of the bee. These have been shown to slowly kill off bees, most notably through harming the queen, which can damage the hive's ability to reproduce. They have also been shown to make bees sick, which in turn makes them remain in the hive longer and can therefore infect other bees. So now that we know what the problems are, how can we fix it? There are several possible solutions for this. Now, to relate back to the article the EPA made on colony collapse disorder, there are several possible causes, and they include diseases, pests, and stresses put upon the bees from poor nutrition. So what can be done? The EPA claims it is doing its part by collecting data and research through surveying hives across the nation. They hope to find the exact cause in order to find the proper solution. This means the best way we can help bees from colony collapse disorder is through our power to vote. Make sure to research candidates for the next election that are willing to fund the EPA for further research on this matter. Now, to return back to the neonicotinoid problem, CNN has an article titled 5 Ways to Help Save the Bees, in which the solution would be to refrain from using this insecticide and others that have been shown to be poisonous to bees. We as consumers can further this initiative by buying organic produce and by supporting local beekeepers by buying their honey. Lastly, the OSU article I mentioned earlier had very simple tips that you and I can easily follow in order to help protect the bees. They include planting bee favorite flowers such as geraniums, poppies, and sunflowers, as their nectar has been shown to be very nutritious to bees. We can refrain from using pesticides on our lawns and grasses, especially those that are poisonous to bees. And lastly, and most simply, do not kill bees outright. Simply ignore them. So, now that we know what some solutions are, let's envision our world without bees. Business Insider created an in-depth hypothetical future in their article titled, What Our World Would Look Like Without Honeybees, in which the answer is, farmers that produce cherries, avocados, pumpkins, leafy greens, cucumbers, and almonds, just to name a few, would be out of a job. This is because these crops are difficult to pollinate, especially on such a large scale, meaning it would be unlikely that these foods would end up on our plates. This lack of fruits and vegetables could lead to improper nutrition for many people, and it is also important to note that a smaller and less diverse food supply would mean more hungry people. The article goes on a different route in explaining that bees also help pollinate crops such as coconut and those that produce oil such as cotton and those that produce oil such as coconut and oil palm. This means that cloves and important fats would be much more expensive as a result. of a bee extinction. And lastly, bees help pollinate flowers, which make our world so much more of a beautiful place. Imagine the plainness of this campus without its plant life. Not only would our stomachs be empty, but our eyes and hearts would be too. To conclude, the bee population has been suffering major losses over the years. Yet there are solutions to this. However, without these solutions, the world may turn to be a much darker place. That is why it is so important that we help protect the bees from their increasing drop in population. We can do little things such as gardening, spreading awareness about this issue to others, and putting people in office who show they not only care about bees, but about the environment as a whole. Although bees may be small, they play a big part in our lives. It's time we return the favor. Thank you.